Long-standing, very passionate Bragg member and our resident movie star, as you can see. And next to Aron, we have Rana Zaman. She's a social activist and another dedicated Bragg member. And Rana is also representing the NDP in the Cole Harbour area this coming election. And next to Rana, we have Joanna Ricketts. Joanna, everyone knows, yeah. Joanna is a member of the CMHA and also a board member, and she works with mental illness. And next to Joanna, we have Vince Calderhead, who is a human rights lawyer here in Halifax. So we've given the panelists 10 minutes each. And I'm going to sit here with my little timer. I'll give you a wave when you've got 2 minutes left, and I'll start doing this when you need to wrap up. Okay, and we'll start with Aron.
Thank you very much, Megan, for an awesome introduction.
That is so sweet of you, Ed. True gentleman.
I do what I can. Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for wanting to listen to me tonight. And yeah, I've been asked to talk more about my experiences with income assistance this time and dwell less on policy and statistics and evidence and so on. Much of that will be covered in some slides that you can see on our website. I brought copies tonight to view as well, but alas, my technological acumen will not be up to the task. Mea maxima culpa. But they will be on our website. And my colleagues will also cover some of those things as well. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Oh, yay. Woohoo. I've also been given a time limit, which I will try to stay within. So before I really launch into my presentation, my address, I have to say this. Marie Antoinette did not say let them eat cake. So with regard to the transformation, so-called, which we all know about, I've seen little signs of true transformation where the rubber meets the road. And examples such as the Sparks case and the 20% deduction and the so-called standard household rate do little to encourage me. So far, from what I can tell, this effort on the part of the department seems to be following those transformation efforts elsewhere, which is to say, disguised cuts. Then I consider the overworked caseworkers who have been promised change and help, relief, but none has been forthcoming. I pose the question, has it gone from a case of we need to fix things that are in need of tweaking and fixing, to we need to take punitive steps to prevent this from getting to be too big of a budget priority? Now, to be sure, there have been some slight green sprigs of hope, such as an increase to the boarding rate allowance for some, and programs to assist youth, but even these tend to be somewhat fraught and inadequate from what I understand of them. Indeed, it seems very much to me as if the department feels that, quote, making life difficult for the poor will ultimately encourage them to change their unwholesome ways, and that they, i.e. the department, view poverty as a reflection on the worth and character of the person. In short, that it's our own fault that we need help. To be fair, these examples and others that I've touched on in previous addresses may not, strictly speaking, be the entirety of the matter. And I don't want to take anything away from those who do work hard and who do care and who genuinely believe that in their transformation efforts they're doing a good thing. But it feels like the door to change for those living in poverty might have opened a small crack, but a celebration would certainly be premature. Now, I've been in receipt of social assistance welfare since an accident the better part of a decade ago. In common with most income assistance recipients, I live below the poverty line. I've been painted as that great malingerer and moocher of legend. And there have been times when straight answers have been a bit of a challenge. By the time that I pay my basic bills, I have about probably $50 a month, roughly, left from my income assistance check with which to purchase groceries and grooming and cleaning supplies and everything else. Life's unexpected happenings can be a disaster, and even the highlights can be tinged with sadness and anxiety. I didn't review requesting assistance from ESIA with any great degree of self-possession. I knew people when I was younger, growing up on the farm, who had to do that and what they had to go through. And therefore I positively dreaded the prospect. I'm an ISFJ on the Myers-Briggs scale, which means that I thrive on creating and living amidst harmony and order, and I am, to quote my grandfather, a lover and not a fighter. But the Byzantine Empire had nothing on RDCS. Indeed, so much so have been my difficulties with the department and what I have seen, that even as far back as that initial request had me considering a rather permanent solution to a relatively temporary problem, and especially in light of in eternum. Even today, were it not for my relationship with Christ and the example of my sovereign lady, I'm not sure the game would be worth the candle anymore. Remember, you asked for more personal. This is me. A moment ago or so, I mentioned how life's unexpected happenings can be a disaster for those of us on welfare. As a result of the abysmally low rates, it looks as if I will have to leave my home in the spring of 2020. My building was bought by an investment company a few months ago, and I simply can't manage the increased expenses. They've done nothing legally wrong as far as I can tell. It's just business. But there's no flexibility in an income assistance budget to meet these kinds of changes. Friends have tried to help, but given the realities and the policies of the ESIA program, either I've had to decline their offers or their efforts have been ineffectual. I don't want to leave my home and I don't want to burden my loved ones. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have any answers, although I can at least say I know who does. I remember standing at my living room window at 20 to 12 on May 3rd. In 2007, watching my best friend's taillights fade into the night. After 3 years of living together, it was so terribly quiet and cold and empty. It took almost a year for my place to feel like home, but now it is, and I must leave. I can't imagine living anywhere else. To be sure, my life is not entirely grim. I'm grateful for what I do have, even from DCS. I have a rich life in non-monetary terms. I have work for my hands to do, working around my recalcitrant physicality. There are other terms I could use, but I'm trying to be a gentleman. I have some amazing friends and colleagues, and I have the best stepmother in the world. I'm able to do things now and then by God's grace. You know, the thing is free, or someone else pays for me, or he takes a more direct hand. But that doesn't change the fact that life on ESIA is hard, or that the transformation has done little to concretely help. I'm into my last paragraph, or two. I want to leave you with this, folks. an encouragement to those who were on social assistance with me, and a reminder to DCS workers and bureaucrats who may be listening in, or to whom my words may be carried in due course. We're taught that being poor and needing social assistance welfare is our fault, that it's a character defect, that we're lazy, etc. Not so, or at least not necessarily so. To refer to Jackie's observation earlier in the documentary, the Son of Man had nowhere to lay his head, and yet he was important and is important to the world. The funds that you receive come from taxes that you in part have contributed to. So you're not getting a free ride, so to speak, as some have said. It's what you've already paid in. And they come ultimately from the Most High. We're to treat others as we would like to be treated, and it wouldn't take much for the roles to be reversed. If you ever doubt that, just look at me. For those of you who are on social assistance with me, when you're in that little room signing those papers that give the department carte blanche to poke and pry into every area of your life, remember this: you're worthy of sustenance and respect and honor. Why? Because you're a human being with value as such. You're a human being who was made imago Dei, in the likeness and form of the living God.